Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to meeting 3 of the Deer Park Middle Magnet School Boundary Study here at Newtown High School cafeteria. Couple of introductory points for tonight. Please make sure you avail yourselves to the sign-in sheets on the left. Pink sheets for committee members, blue sheets for any observers we may have with us this evening. Please make sure you sign in, get your packets for your binders. Our restrooms are to the rear tonight, near the auditorium entrance. In the event of a fire alarm activation or that we have to evacuate the building, we will evacuate through either the parking lot door we entered in. There are also evacuation doors to the front and to the side, and if necessary, we would reconvene out in the parking lot and verify everyone's accountability on the sign-in sheet. So again, please make sure you signed in when you came in the doors tonight. We are live streaming tonight, so if any committee members would like to make a comment, again we reiterate, please, I know it's a little bit of a pain, but please walk up to the front after being recognized and utilize one of the microphones here. Because of the lighting and such and positioning, our TV crew has asked us to please leave the microphones where they are in their stands and step forward to the microphones so that we can capture your voice nice and clearly for our viewers at home. Our COVID mitigation protocols are in effect for, we have hand sanitizers available at each table. We have masks up front if anyone would like them. Mask use is optional, and we ask that everyone please respect your neighbor's personal preferences for masks and social distancing. And if anyone does find themselves on the committee in receipt of a positive COVID result throughout the committee proceedings, please contact Michael Godfredson in our office. He's the person that sends you those nice reminder emails every week. Materials will be posted to the website tomorrow. All the materials we'll be discussing here tonight. Additionally, tonight you do have some laptop devices at your tables. Those are already coded into our Cropper map so that it makes it real easy to zoom in on planning blocks that you may be interested in. And if you need some assistance with that, just raise your hand and one of us will be around to help you manipulate that program. And again, we encourage all our viewers and all our community feedback to our community feedback form, which is on the website, and we graciously accept all comments there. I do not believe we've received any to date, so by all means share with your friends and your associations and groups that comment form is available, and we certainly welcome and value any and all feedback that is shared with us. With that, I'm going to turn it over to James to start us off. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, committee members, for coming out, and the public for viewing virtually. We have a few things to cover tonight. I'm going to review some new information, some follow-up questions that were presented during meeting 2, and review options 1 through 3. Then we'll get into a small group exercise, a sticker exercise to evaluate the options and how well they adhere to the primary and secondary considerations. And then following that, after we discuss those results, we'll go use the ActiVote and have the voting members select what options that we want to present at the upcoming public information session. So again, in your packet, you should have gotten the new statistical handout that will have boundary options 1 through 3. We really want to gather some initial feedback on those options via a few exercises tonight, and kind of review and evaluate the advantages and limitations that each group discusses for each option. So just an overview of the boundary study timeline here. We're at the midway point of this process. Meeting 3 here today. Upcoming, we have in 2 weeks, on October the 26th, we have the public information session. And then after that public information session, we have 2 scheduled meetings left here as a committee where we will eventually vote on a recommendation for the Board of Education, to evaluate. So just a quick background. We are here for the Deer Park Middle Magnet boundary study. We're looking to evaluate the boundary for that Middle Magnet school. And in conjunction with that, there are 4 participating schools: Franklin, Northwest Academy, Pikesville Middle School, and Windsor Mill. And all those schools share a boundary with Deer Park Middle Magnet, and therefore they're included in this boundary study. Upon a recommendation that is eventually decided by the Board of Education in February of next year, we expect the voted and approved boundary to go into effect in fall of 2023. So just a few follow-up on some new information that you should have received in your packet handouts tonight, as well as maps around. There are some projections and utilization by school based on 2021 official enrollment. There's also a map of residential housing types in the study area that you should have in your binder. There's also a large plot that breaks down residential type that's on each group's table, where you could review and see single-family residential homes and where they're located in conjunction with each boundary, apartments and commercial/residential locations within the study area. We also have historic trend mobility data from the Maryland State Department of Education. And then there's also a list of regional special education programs that each school hosts. So we're just reviewing a question that we received here from meeting 2. How are new residential developments considered in the boundary study process? BCPS coordinates with Baltimore County Planning Department to assess the impact of approved residential development on enrollment. Recent development are reflected in enrollment projections. That information kind of shows currently approved residential developments as well as the number of units that these approved residential developments will be building, and then the anticipated student yields that those developments will have on enrollment. This data is provided to you as a committee and the public to consider as we evaluate draft options. Another question from meeting 2 was what future school capital projects are planned in this study area? There are 4 elementary replacement and expansion projects that are planned in this region to provide capacity relief and improve facility conditions for the participating schools. These boundary study processes are associated with these projects and commence about 1 year prior to the planned opening of the school. Another question from meeting 2 is, will magnet enrollments be limited? The number of magnet enrollment seats are always determined by the Office of Magnet Programs in concert with the schools that are participating in this boundary study, and this data is reviewed annually. What is state-rated capacity? SRC, you'll see that in the current enrollment tables, headers, and some of the current enrollment numbers and utilization. And how is that determined? It's defined by the Maryland State Department of Education. They calculate it based on the number of classrooms in each school and how they're used. It only applies to permanent buildings, so portables that you see on a school site are not included in the state-rated capacity. And the room size and the standards for what may or may not count towards state-rated capacity is always standardized across the entire district. Another question is, will this study utilize 2022-23 student enrollment data? That data will be, September 30th data will be provided when it's available to inform the decision-making process. It will only reflect the total enrollment by school as of September 30th of this year. We won't be calculating with these options. Estimated enrollment will be based on that September 30th, 2022 enrollment data. And a handout has been provided that includes projected middle school enrollment data from 2022 up to 2031. How do shared domiciles impact the enrollment of each school? All shared domicile students are counted just as any other student within the district. Shared domicile documentation is reviewed and renewed annually. Do we have any questions here after those follow-up questions by chance? Alrighty, so just a quick background on the boundary study objective. We are here to reduce overcrowding at Deer Park Middle Magnet. We want to create viable, successful boundaries that efficiently use capacity at all 5 of the participating schools. And we definitely want to maintain or increase the student diversity among the participating schools to reflect the region and the school system as a whole. So now we'll jump into the review of draft options. If you look in your packet and maps around here, we have 3 draft options here tonight. Option 1 and 2 are unchanged. Those are the same options that were presented to you during meeting 2. And then we have 1 new draft option. Option 3, it was developed based on feedback and discussion from the first 2 meetings. We always want to be mindful that these are draft options. Nothing is set in stone. These options may change, and new options can and may will be developed moving forward in this boundary study process. So you'll have maps that are in your packet as well, and there's plots on each group's table as well as around this area here on the wall there to the right. We have also copies of handouts, including the maps that are posted on the boundary study webpage. You can reach that webpage via bcps.org under the resource section. And then there's also croppermap.com/BCPS-NW 2022, and that will host all options that have been presented to the committee thus far. So just a little background on option 3, since that's a new option that you as a committee and the public are viewing tonight. As I stated before, it was developed from committee feedback and discussion during meetings. And one of some big driving variables for this option is there was some discussion on the line between Deer Park Middle Magnet School and Northwest Academy, and using Owings Mills Boulevard as the dividing line. So you'll notice when you look at the maps for option 3 that Owings Mills Boulevard is the new line for option 3 that separates Northwest Academy from Deer Park Middle Magnet. And a big driving factor with this option was reducing the impacted students in schools. So you'll see in this option that only Northwest Academy and Franklin Middle School are used to relieve Deer Park Middle Magnet. As a result of that, Deer Park Middle Magnet School gets down to 99% in this option. And it has an anticipated impact of only 330 middle school students, which is the fewest amount of students impacted of the 3 options that you've been presented thus far. So just a little recap, some of the advantages and limitations of each option. Looking at option 1 here, Deer Park Middle Magnet gets significant relief. It gets down to 95% utilization in this option, which happens to be the lowest of the 3 options that you have been presented thus far. Balance is provided to all schools within the area, as all fall within 2% of the district average. Another good positive about this option is it reduces the middle school to high school splits, which is currently at 11 on the current boundaries, but it gets down to 8 splits in this option. So we're keeping students together in this option as they migrate from middle school to high school. Some of the limitations with this option that you will see is it impacts the most students of all 3 options, with anticipated impact of 722 middle school students. Another limitation with this option is it has 9 splits from elementary school to middle school, where currently the boundaries only have 5 splits. Although those splits increase, those splits are relatively balanced, so students are still migrating from elementary to middle school with some familiar faces. Looking at option 2, again, this option does give Deer Park Middle Magnet significant relief, gets them down to 98%. Balance is provided throughout all the schools and within the study area. It also impacts the second least number of students of the 3 options, with 429 anticipated middle school students impacted. One of the limitations with this option, though, is there are additional elementary school to middle school splits that are created as a result. Goes from 5 to 7 in this option. So a little less than option 1, but it still does create additional splits for some of our students within the study area. And then option 3, I don't want to be too redundant here, but it does give Deer Park Middle Magnet significant relief down to 99% in this option. Again, one of the big driving factors with creating this option was lowering that impact number down to 330 middle school students here. It does create some additional splits from elementary school to middle school as previously stated with the other options. And then another driving limitation with this option is it creates a 2% split from Franklin Middle School to Newtown High School. And you can kind of see where that split occurs here with about 21 students that end up going to Franklin in this option from Deer Park. And those students would migrate and progress to Newtown High School, which ends up being a 2% split. So with that being said, we're going to dive here into an option evaluation exercise. We have 2 exercises due tonight, with the first being an option evaluation exercise, and it's going to help build a consensus on options that we'll present at the public information session and online survey for the public to complete here in 2 weeks. You want to really try to identify common thoughts among committee members and discuss options that best meet the objectives and the considerations of this boundary study. So this here, you'll see, this is the big option evaluation exercise plot. Each group has one. We'll be using stickers to place a colored sticker to rate each option by how well it adheres to the primary considerations and secondary considerations. So for example, a red sticker will be poor, yellow is fair, and then obviously green is very well and adheres to the considerations almost to a T. So you want to consider if there are any changes that potentially could be made to any of these options to better address them. So one thing I want you to know is when you guys discuss as a group, you want to discuss each consideration as a group to the rest of the committee members. Have everybody give their input on it. And then I don't want you to think that you have to put one green sticker per consideration. There may be a situation where, take for example, efficient use of capacity at the affected schools. All 3 options could very well have a green sticker. You could even be nuanced if you need to be and put a green and yellow if half your group agrees that it's fair and half agrees that it's, very well adheres to the consideration. So just the way to break it down, we'll have a recorder, one person that listens and writes the group's comments. Maybe that recorder could be the one that reads out the primary and secondary consideration to the group, and have each one of your members kind of give their input on it before making a decision as a group. And then we'll have a reporter at the end, once every group is finished evaluating each option versus each consideration. We'll have one person come up to the mics here with their plot, with their table plot, and discuss with their group what resulted of this sticker exercise, any findings, observations, suggestions, or questions that your group may have. As you're evaluating this, you always want to think of some of the strengths and limitations of each option, as we've discussed, and any new ones that you may come about. You want to look at, are there any concerns, challenges, or any improvements to any of these options that we can make moving forward? And if possible, is there a new option that you feel should be developed as you guys discuss this during the sticker exercise? So with that being said, we'll reconvene. Yeah, yes. You- You mind coming up to the mic, just for the public? Yeah, I'm sorry. 98% includes state rated capacity. Okay. So she said, does the 98% include the state rated capacity? Yes, it does. Yes. So yes, with any other questions by any group member, committee members? So with that being said, get in your groups, discuss, assign a recorder and a reporter, and we'll reconvene here in about 20 to 30 minutes and discuss each group's finding with the committee as a whole. Hi, committee members, committee groups. Want to try to wrap it up in about 5 to 10 minutes here before presenting to the rest of the committee. So about 5 to 10 minutes.
You,
They're all pretty much done.
All right. Alrighty, committee members, viewing public. We can wrap it up here. Looks like every group has evaluated each option versus in conjunction with each consideration. Does anybody want to volunteer to go first, group-wise? Absolutely, blue group. I'll hold it for you. I said I'll hold it for you. Oh, yeah, I got you.
So, I'm not supposed to touch that.
Let's see here.
So basically, we had a lot of discussion about all three options. We found the efficient use of capacity in the affected schools, we were pretty neutral on all three. Maintaining or increasing the diversity. Number one, we didn't like at all. 2 and 3, the second and third option, we found to be better options in this bracket. Maintaining the continuity, we really liked 3 because it moved less children around, and it went along that Owings Mills Boulevard area, so it was just one area. The impact, I'm sorry.
You're good.
The impact of transportation and pedestrian, all the walkers stayed on all three options. The long-term enrollment and capacity trends, we were a little bit confused about that one, but it was showing just the trends, and I feel like, or we all felt it was a little theoretical, and we weren't really 100% sure, so we decided to stay pretty neutral on that one. The location of the feeder schools, again, because it was only impacting the 2 schools, and there was the 2% that were going to another school from Franklin, I believe, so we found that option 3 was the best for that one. And then finally, minimizing the number of students impacted, obviously 3 was the best one for that one as well. So.
Awesome. That was good information there, Blue Group. I heard some great discussions around your table as well. Does the next group want to step forward? Discuss the results of your sticker exercise. Any important topics your group had discussed, definitely voice that to the rest of the committee as well.
All right, so in looking at the primary consideration for options 1, 2, and 3, as far as the efficiency use of capacity in effective schools, we rated it yellow because although there is a decrease within Deer Park Middle, we see an increase in other schools like i.e. Windsor Mill, which reached Northwest Academy, which reaches its capacity within those particular options. Looking at maintaining and increasing diversity among schools to reflect the diversity of the region, we rated it green for option 1 and 2. Option 3 is a little bit fresh, so we weren't able to kind of dive into the data as of right now to make a decision in that regard. Looking at the secondary consideration, maintaining the continuity of the neighborhoods, we understand that there was some changes as far as the neighborhoods amongst option 1, but amongst option 2 and 3, it remained the same for the most part. Looking at the impact of transportation pedestrian patterns on students, we rated it all green because we didn't see anything that would have an impact in that particular matter. As far as the long-term enrollment and capacity trends for future capital plans, we know that Owings Mills is a booming area, so we rated all 3 of those reds because if you look at the overall number, I think that we need to stay around 98%. Most of our schools are around 99%, which is a percentage over. So it's in our, I guess just to summarize, it's a quick fix. But as far as a long-term fix, it's something that we don't really see at this present moment. Looking at the location of feeder boundaries, there was some changes as far as the different feeder patterns, so we rated all of those to be yellow. And looking at minimizing the number of students impacted by the boundary changes, we just kind of saw where I believe option 1 had 700 students that are impacted, option 2 had around 400 students, and option 3 had roughly 300 students that were impacted by those changes.
Thank you. Thanks for breaking down some of the input on how you guys came to a consensus on what sticker you placed for each option.
Thank you. So while our group was reviewing the data, that was something that we did reference quite often while doing this, obviously. When we looked at the option number 1 for the efficient use of capacity in the affected schools, we came to the general consensus that that was not the best option because of the fact that a lot of schools some schools would be put at maximum capacity, and then other schools would not necessarily, the boundaries were mainly the issue that we had with that. For option number 2, for the efficient capacity of the schools, we said that that was fair based on the information that we received in last session, but that we did feel like there was room for improvement, which is something that we had already discussed. And then finally, for option number 3, we said that that was also fair for the efficiency of the use, but also that out of the 3 options, that was the most ideal. For the maintaining and increasing diversity amongst the schools, we said for option number 1 was not ideal, simply because although some schools would be increasing and maintaining diversity, other schools would be impacted in a negative way, and it would actually decrease the diversity in some of the schools. For option number 2, we said that it was fair based on the data that was presented to us, not only by race, but also by our farm program and our English language learners. We also said that option 3 was fair in regards to that data, but we did have the question of what are the numbers for our special education? And we feel like that is super important to be able to include, to be able to make this decision. For the maintaining the communities and neighborhoods, the option number 1, the map was, to us, it was moving too many children. The lines were not very clean. We said that that was a no-go. For option number 2, we said it was fair because it moved reasonably less students. And out of the 3 options, option number 3, which only relocated about 330, if I'm not mistaken, was the best out of the 3 options presented to us. Thank you. For the impacts on transportation, option number 1, because of the fact that we would be moving so many students, over 700, we said that because Baltimore County already struggles with transportation issues, that would probably not be the most ideal for our students, and that would be a even higher difficulty for us to be able to not satisfy. What is the word I'm looking for? Implement. Thank you. You're a good noodle. Option number 2, we said again that it was more fair than option number 1 because of the moving of less students, but also because of that rezoning of some of those areas, transportation already an issue for us, we felt like was going to also be an issue. For option number 3, yes, transportation may be an issue, but because it is moving the least amount of students, we were saying that we would give that a shot because out of the 3, it had more of an ideal situation. Thank you. For the long-term enrollment and capacity trends, moving over 700 students for option 1, we didn't see that as feasible. For option number 2 and option number 3, we said is not necessarily feasible simply because we do not know the restrictions that Deer Park is going to implement on their magnet programs, which means because of all the industrialization in this area, we do not know what the future is going to hold for our capacity numbers. For the location of the feeder schools, boundaries and the continuity of the feeder patterns, we said that option number 1 was not feasible. Option number 2 and 3 were going to be more feasible, and some people are probably looking at option number 3 and saying, well, there are more splits. That is valid, but if you look at the amount of students being moved, although there will be more splits, less students will be impacted by those splits. For the final consideration, which is the minimizing of the number of students impacted by boundaries, obviously we said 700 for option number 1 was, again, not feasible. Option number 2 was more feasible than option number 1, but once presented with option number 3, we said that option number 3 was the most ideal, but also could have room for improvement.
Thank you, thank you. That's great information there with some great discussions held by each group. Thank you for explaining some of your reasoning behind ranking, or not ranking, but evaluating some of these options versus the considerations. So now we're going to go into our second exercise here. It's the nomination exercise. This exercise, committee members will be using the ActiveVote devices that we've passed around to each group member, committee member, and the purpose is to determine which options to present at the upcoming public information session here in 2 weeks. This is not a vote for support of an option to recommend to the Board of Education. This just provides an opportunity for the community to give feedback on a particular option that the committee as a whole feels comfortable moving forward with. We'll be voting on this on each option individually, so we'll be asking you yes or no if we want to move forward with presenting a particular option at the upcoming public information session. Everybody has an ActiveVote device. Principals are not voting members, but they may engage in the discussion. On your device, you will click a number, I believe it's, or a letter for yes or no, and then also say you were to click the incorrect button, you're allowed to correct your changes before we finalize. There's a sticker on the back of each device that you will see here on the upcoming screen once we switch to it, so that you can ensure that once you voted, it should place a flag next to your sticker number to let us know and you know as well that you have voted.
For the record, Mike, for the record, how many voting devices are in play? We need a quick count just so that we can document for the. 11 voting members operating tonight. Okay, thank you.
Okay. You let me know. Yeah, no, you're fine. So at this time, committee members that have the ActiveVote, in regards to option 1, click A for yes if you want to bring option 1 forward to the public information session. Click B for no if you do not want to include that option at the upcoming public information session. That's one. Okay. Just waiting on one more vote here. Just device 1. Yeah. All right. All righty. I think all the votes are in. Let's look at the results here. 100% no. So option 1 will not be moving forward to the upcoming public information session. All righty. In regards to option 2, vote A for yes, B for no. In regards to bringing option 2 to the upcoming public information session. All righty. Yes. So we'll calculate the results here. 22% said yes, 77% said no. Based on those results, we will not be bringing option 2 to the upcoming public information session. And in regards to option 3, A for yes, B for no. Thanks, everybody. 100% yes. So at the upcoming public information session, scheduled on October the 26th, we will be bringing option 3 forward to the public to give a presentation on that option, as well as provide that option details for the survey for the public. Yes.
If I could just make just one comment. Typically, when we go to public info sessions, usually we like to take a couple options to them to get some feedback. But you know, we don't have to. Things are always unique with every process. So the committee, we did see some committee members think that option 2 should go, but the majority of you said they shouldn't go. We're more than happy to do whatever you guys want to do. If you feel like 3 is strong enough to take on its own to the public to get feedback from them on that, we can do that. But we just wanted to, you know, make sure that you are aware that we usually have a couple options for the committee to evaluate and look at. But do you guys have any thoughts on that? Do you think that we should only take 1 to the public info session and keep, you know, working on that, looking at that option, or should we look at potentially taking more than 1? What percentage of us voted yes? Okay. The question was how many voted yes for option 2. So let's pull that back up and take a look.
I believe it was 22. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so you were, okay, and I'll repeat. Okay, I'll repeat what you said so the watching public can say they hear what you said. You said if it were 50%, then maybe something to consider, but since it's only shown 25% of the committee felt it was strong enough to take to the public info session, you feel like it should not move forward. Is that correct? Were there any thoughts on modifications to option 3? I mean, we don't have to make changes to it. This is something that we can do as we move to the next couple of meetings after the public info session, but were there any considerations or things with option 3 that you wanted to make change? Maybe look at potentially making 3A and 3B or anything like that? And we're just giving you guys food for thought. It doesn't have to necessarily be change the results of your votes. Do you want to speak to the mic? Come on, sure.
Wondering about option 1. Option 1 provides some significant relief to Deer Park, and I'm just curious about a conversation on if we can modify 3 in any way that we can increase that number to give some more relief to Deer Park.
So this isn't the end of the process. There's still more work to be done, and so you can certainly make changes to the option after the public info session. So, 3 can certainly be modified and improved based off of your thoughts. If you feel like it needs more relief, that's something that can be done. And there's still time after this next public info session. So the focus and objective of tonight is to try to bring whatever options you want to take to the public to get their input, to get what they want to say about the maps, and then that will help potentially drive changes to or improvements to the map. So there still is potential and time to make adjustments to the map to accomplish the objectives and make you feel comfortable with the recommendation. So it sounds like the option 3 is what the committee feels strongly about taking to the public, the strongest option. So that certainly is fine. One thing to note is that it looks like we're starting to build some consensus around an option, and if we do get to the point where we don't need to have 2 more meetings after the public info session, we may have you guys, if you feel comfortable and ready at the next meeting, you could potentially cast a vote for a recommendation. We're not going to rush you into that, but if you feel like you're ready, then we'll let you do that. So it's important, what the point said is that it's important to come to the next meeting, because that could potentially happen the way we're seeing consensus being built around the tables. Okay. Okay, so there were nine votes, 9 voting committee members tonight. Yes, sir, absolutely, sure.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Just very quickly, for those that don't know me, I'm Eric Minus. Good to see everyone. I am the executive director for this area. And I just wanted to kind of, as I was listening, so strategy, right? If we feel as a committee that an option is the strongest option, and we present that only option to a community, to our community, perhaps it does give way to allow people to put more emphasis on what were the other options and take the focus off of why this is the best option. And so I just wanted to at least elevate that piece for the group as you all are reflecting and thinking about next steps and what to do. Just in my experience in working with communities and understanding how a lot of this works, I don't know if it's in our best interest if we really feel great about an option to only bring anyone one, because then it allows others to ponder, well, what else could be out there and why not? So I just wanted to make sure I elevated that point. Yeah.
Just a suggestion, could we do votes again and maybe say at least look at the 2 strongest options? Is that possible? Is that, I don't know the rules. I'm just asking you also.
When you get the survey results back, it's really just going to be providing feedback for you to make an informed decision. It's not going to be whatever the results are, the most votes wins. Really, the feedback you get in there is really just another piece of information so you can hear what the community's saying about different options. There might be a piece that is supported in one option over another, and then you can create another option from everything that you're hearing from the 2 options that you move forward and create another third. So it's not a most votes wins situation if you do decide to take a second.
Good evening. I've listened to this great dialogue. My suggestion, since we have option 3 on the table from the voting committee, let's try to do option B, option 3, option B, but give us some time. We still got time on the clock, 8 o'clock. Give us some time to see if we can get an option B from 3. That would be my suggestion.
And that's perfectly fine. Do you guys want to take a look at option 3 as suggested by a committee member and see if there's maybe any modifications to it? That's certainly something that we can do. So why don't we give you some time and just see how let you guys gather your thoughts on if any improvements should be made to option 3, or and the next steps for moving to what we want to share with the public. And that's perfect fine. So we'll give you some time, look over option 3, look at the details of the map, and then we'll regroup and give you guys after you guys have some conversations. Okay, sort of spoke to each of the subgroups, but the blue group over here had some suggestions for making adjustments to the option 3. Do you guys want to? Somebody want to come up and maybe talk a little bit about it? About the option? I could hold the map and.
So, Blue Group just did a little bit of math, and we're looking for an option. If we're looking for an option between 2 and 3, we found 2 planning blocks, either one of which would give more relief to Deer Park, but wouldn't go right up to the extent of option 2. So we were talking with the planning committee. They said we may have to split some of the blocks, but they believe that either one might be feasible.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. It's they were looking at planning blocks 154 or 152 on the map is what they were looking at. And when we were discussing it with them, we were talking about some of the planning blocks cross all the way over the Deer Park zone. And so if the whole planning block went, it would actually create a satellite area or an enclave for the northern part of Deer Park. But looking at how the roads are in that planning block 154 and 152, their kids could be clustered on one side of the planning block. So it seems ideal to be able to cut that planning block into 2 different planning blocks and still keep the whole Deer Park zone intact as one zone. So I think it was a great suggestion. Does anybody else have any questions about this or any concerns or about this particular adjustment in creating a 3B map for the public information session? Do you think that should we have an active vote to confirm that this should go to the public info session and have the committee just make a formal vote on it so that we can have it for the record? Sure, I think you could call it 3B, and we can call the other one 3A for continuity's sake. I think that's probably the best way, or yeah, that's probably the best thing to do. Either 152 or 154 planning block. Yeah. You want to see the map?
So it was an either or. It was either option 3 with planning block 152 being moved to from Deer Park to Franklin, or it was option 3 with planning block 154 being cut so that it doesn't create an enclave. So yeah, it was an either. So we could do a 3A, 3B, 3C type of. So just for name's sake, option 3 during this discussion will just be referred to as option 3A. If we were to move planning block 152 from Deer Park, using option 3 as the base configuration and move planning block 152 from Deer Park to Franklin, that would be option 3B. If we were to make a cut for on option 3 for planning block 154 and move the northwest part of that cut of planning block 154 from Deer Park to Franklin, then that would be option 3C for namesake.
And for the record, the 3B, the one that we're calling 3B, which is planning block 152, that has roughly 16 students in it. And then planning block 154 has about 31 students in it. And then we're not certain if we cut that block, if those numbers will be different, if they may be less once we cut the block so that we don't create a satellite. Just for the record, 3B would have about estimated 16 students to Franklin. 3C would have about estimated 31 students to Franklin from Deer Park. Both of those would be coming from Deer Park. Do you guys have any questions about that? We've been calling a lot of audibles here, but I think it's good stuff that you guys are considering here. And we do have the map here. If you wanted to come look at the map, or we could bring it to another table if other people, I know the red group saw it. If you guys want to see the map, we can bring it to you. Any other questions? And then before we let you kind of determine if you want to take 3B or 3C to the public for the public info session? Was there anything over there on that back table that needs to be? You could take them both. If everybody says, yeah, if the whole committee, like if you want to take option 3B and 3C, just say yes for both of them, and you could take all three. And we definitely take 3 to the public many times, and so the number 3 is definitely going. That one is locked in, so that one is going. Now we're just determining what other variations of 3 we take, either 3B or 3C or both of them to the public for input along with option 3. And this is really just to get more input from the public. Remember, this isn't a vote. This is just to get their input, get what they say, so that you can solidify a recommendation. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so there's recommendations on the floor to take all 3. Why don't we go ahead and do the active vote? And then, so if you feel like you want to take all 3, then just vote yes for both 3B and 3C, and then we'll have 3. If you only take one of them, then just vote yes for one. Or if you don't want either, then vote no for both of them, okay? All right. You guys everybody ready to do that? To do that, the vote. That vote? Do we have it up? Mike?
Mike, is this 3B?
Okay, so this is a vote to take option 3B to the public, which is planning block 152. So vote yes to take this to the public info along with option 3. Vote no if you don't want that to move forward to take to the public info session.
Oh, there it is. All righty. So it looks like we have a majority consensus to bring option 3B to the public information session. Now to vote on option 3C, which is moving planning block 154 from Deer Park to Franklin. Vote A for yes, B for no. And that's a majority yes for that option as well. So based on these results, we appreciate you reevaluating option 3 to bring to multiple options to the public. Based on these results, we will be bringing option 3, which will be named 3A, option 3B, and then also option 3C to the public information session. So I appreciate your work as a committee members, pulling the audible and reevaluating that. Moving forward, again, the public information session is scheduled for Wednesday, October 26th, and it will be running from 7 to 8. Please have all committee members here if possible. Viewing public, please come to the public information session to evaluate the 3 options that will be presented at that time, as well as have any discussions with committee members or district officials. Again, if we have a committee member staffs arrive by 6:30 for a brief orientation of the meeting setup, The participants there, public and committee members, will view a presentation and have an opportunity to ask questions about the boundary study in process and the draft options. Following that presentation, an online survey will kick off. It will be available in multiple languages. And a survey can be taken on any PC, Apple, or mobile device that has internet access. This survey will be live from October the 26th through November the 14th of 2022. So again, our next meeting will be October the 26th, where the public information session will be held. Committee members, please try to arrive by 6:30 p.m. And then following that public information session, it will be a little over 30 days before we meet again. On Wednesday, November 30th of 2022, our standard start time of 6 p.m. And at that time, we'll evaluate the results of the survey and comments that the public had during the public information session. We appreciate you coming out tonight. Again, you can access any of these materials via the Boundary Study website under the Resource tab. Please, we encourage the viewing public and any community members to submit comments via Deer Park Middle Magnet School Boundary Study comment form. And always try to observe these committee meetings virtually. Again, reiterate, attend the public information session in 2 weeks on October the 26th. Participate in the survey, as that information will be very valuable to the committee members to make informed decisions moving forward. And attend the Board of Education public hearing that is scheduled on March 1st of 2023. Thank you all and have a great night.